The bass reverberated through Natalie Voss's bones as the arena lights flashed in hypnotic pulses, the crowd's energy swelling around her like a tide. After 70-hour work weeks for the past 3 months, this concert was supposed to be her reward, a rare night of freedom. But the combination of skipping lunch, the overwhelming heat of bodies pressed together, and sheer exhaustion suddenly made the room spin. She felt her knees buckle just as a pair of strong arms caught her from behind. "Whoa, I've got you," a deep voice said near her ear. Natalie tried to straighten, but the dizziness overwhelmed her. Through the haze, she glimpsed concerned hazel eyes and dark hair before everything went temporarily dark. When her vision cleared seconds later, she found herself being guided away from the pulsing crowd by a tall man with broad shoulders. "Let's get you some air," he said, his voice barely audible over the music. "Can you walk?" Natalie nodded, leaning against him as he navigated toward the exit. Once in the corridor, the relative quiet and cooler air helped clear her head. "Thank you," she managed, steadying herself against the wall. "I'm fine now." "You nearly fainted back there," the stranger said, his expression concerned. "When was the last time you ate or had water?" Natalie tried to remember. "I had coffee this morning." He shook his head disapprovingly and pulled a granola bar from his pocket. "Here, my daughter always says I'm overprepared, but looks like it came in handy." As Natalie accepted the snack, she noticed a little girl approaching them, her curly hair bouncing with each step. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. "Dad, there you are," the child exclaimed. "I was looking everywhere." "Lily, I told you to stay with Uncle James," the man said, his tone firm but gentle. He turned to Natalie. "Sorry, this is my daughter." "Is the lady okay?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "I'm fine, sweetheart," Natalie assured her, unwrapping the granola bar. "Your dad helped me." "I'm Natalie, by the way. I'm Lily, and that's my dad, Kieran." Kieran Mitchell offered Natalie a small smile. "Nice to meet you, though I wish it were under different circumstances." Another man appeared, slightly out of breath. "There you are, Lily. You can't just run off like that." "Sorry, Uncle James," Lily said, not looking particularly remorseful. Kieran introduced his brother, and after ensuring Natalie was feeling better, James took Lily back to their seats, promising to save Kieran's spot. "You don't have to stay with me," Natalie said. "I'm feeling much better now." "Are you here alone?" Kieran asked, leaning against the wall beside her. Natalie nodded. "My assistant was supposed to join me, but she came down with the flu." She took another bite of the granola bar, realizing how hungry she actually was. "I can't leave you here after you almost passed out," Kieran said. "My brother will watch Lily for a few minutes. Let me at least get you some water." As they walked to the concession stand, Natalie found herself studying him. Kieran moved with quiet confidence. His jeans and simple button-down shirt a stark contrast to the flashy concert-goers around them. There was something comforting about his presence. "So, what do you do when you're not rescuing women at concerts?" she asked as he handed her a bottle of water. Kieran laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I'm a carpenter. I build custom furniture." He hesitated before adding, "And single dad, obviously. Lily seems wonderful." "She's my world," he said, his eyes softening. "Her mom left when she was 3. It's been just us for 5 years now." Natalie felt a pang of sympathy. That must be challenging. "Some days more than others," he admitted. "But we make it work. What about you? What keeps you so busy that you forget to eat?" Natalie hesitated. This was usually the moment when conversations changed, when people learned she was the CEO of Vanguard Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Suddenly, she didn't want to see that shift in his eyes, the inevitable recalibration that happened when people realized who she was. "I work in tech," she said simply. "Long hours. Must be interesting," Kieran replied, not pressing for details. "Better than sawdust and splinters, I imagine." The conversation flowed easily between them as the concert continued in the background. Natalie learned that Kieran had started his furniture business in his garage after being laid off from a construction company. He described his struggles to balance building his business while being a single parent, his voice free of self-pity but honest about the challenges. "Lily's school had this father-daughter dance last month," he said. "I had a deadline for a major client, but I couldn't miss it." So I stayed up 3 nights straight to finish the commission, worth every minute to see her face when we walked in together. Natalie found herself drawn to his dedication and lack of pretense. Before she knew it, an hour had passed and the concert was nearing its end. I should get back to Lily, Kieran said, looking genuinely reluctant. Are you feeling better? Much better, thanks to you. Natalie hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Would it be too forward to ask for your number? Maybe I could thank you properly sometime dinner, perhaps. Surprise flickered across his face before he smiled. I'd like that. They exchanged numbers and Kieran disappeared back into the crowd. Natalie leaned against the wall, feeling strangely lighthearted despite her earlier episode. For the first time in months, work wasn't dominating her thoughts. The next morning, Natalie sat in her corner office, 40 stories above the city. Her assistant, Penny, was reviewing her schedule for the day. The investment team needs your approval on the Westridge acquisition by noon, and the board wants the quarterly projections by end of day. Oh, and the New York Times interview has been confirmed for Thursday. Natalie nodded, her mind drifting to the night before. She hadn't expected to be thinking about a carpenter she'd met at a concert, yet here she was, wondering if she should text him first. Miss Voss, is everything all right? Penny asked. Yes, sorry, I was just thinking about something. Natalie straightened in her chair. Let's postpone the New York Times. I need to focus on the acquisition this week. After Penny left, Natalie picked up her phone and composed a text to Kieran. It's Natalie from the concert. Thank you again for the rescue. That dinner offer still stands. She hit send before she could overthink it, then turned her attention to the stack of reports on her desk. To her surprise, her phone buzzed just minutes later. Good morning, Natalie. Glad you're feeling better. Dinner sounds great. When works for you? They settled on Friday evening, and Natalie found herself looking forward to it more than she'd anticipated. She rarely dated. Her last relationship had ended over a year ago when her ex-boyfriend complained that she was married to her company. Friday arrived, and Natalie deliberately left work early for once, ignoring the surprised looks from her executive team. She changed into a simple navy dress and minimal jewelry, wanting to look nice but not overly formal. They had agreed to meet at a casual Italian restaurant, and when she arrived, Kieran was already waiting outside. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal button-down that emphasized his broad shoulders. You look beautiful, he said with genuine appreciation. No signs of nearly fainting tonight. Natalie laughed. I made sure to eat lunch today. The restaurant was cozy and unpretentious, with red checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. As they settled into their seats, Natalie realized how long it had been since she'd been somewhere without a reservation made weeks in advance. So, Kieran said after they ordered, tell me more about this tech job that makes you forget meals. Natalie took a sip of water, debating how much to share. I help run a company that develops applications for healthcare systems. It's been growing quickly, which means long hours. That sounds important, Kieran said. What got you interested in that field? The question surprised her. Most people usually asked about the company's valuation or if they had gone public yet. Instead, Kieran seemed genuinely interested in her motivation. My brother had cystic fibrosis, she found herself saying. The amount of paperwork and system failures my parents had to navigate while trying to take care of him was overwhelming. I always thought there had to be a better way. Is your brother okay now? Natalie shook her head. He passed away when I was in college. That's when I decided to focus on healthcare tech. Kieran reached across the table and briefly covered her hand with his. I'm sorry about your brother. It sounds like you're doing something meaningful because of him. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics. Kieran told her about his latest project, a custom dining table for a family of 6. The husband wanted something modern, but the wife loves traditional styles. I had to find a way to blend them, he explained, sketching the design on a napkin. His passion was evident in the way his eyes lit up as he described the wood selection and joinery techniques. You really love what you do, Natalie observed. I do. There's something deeply satisfying about creating something with your hands that will be part of someone's home for generations. He smiled self-consciously. Sorry if I'm boring you with woodworking details. Not at all. It's refreshing to hear someone talk about their work with such enthusiasm. As the evening progressed, Natalie found herself more and more drawn to Kieran. He was thoughtful and attentive, asking questions and truly listening to her answers. When the check came, he reached for it. "Please, let me," Natalie said. "You saved me from face planting at the concert. It's the least I can do." Kieran looked uncomfortable. "I was raised to pay on a first date." "How about this, you get dinner, I'll get dessert somewhere else," Natalie suggested. The night's still young. They ended up at an ice cream shop a few blocks away, sitting on a bench overlooking a small park. The spring evening was mild, with just enough breeze to carry the scent of nearby flowers. "How's Lily?" Natalie asked, licking her chocolate cone. Kieran's face softened at the mention of his daughter. "She's with my parents tonight. She made me promise to tell her everything about our date tomorrow. She's very invested in my social life." "That's sweet." "Sometimes," he said with a laugh. "Other times it's embarrassing. She once asked my client if she was single because my daddy needs a girlfriend." Natalie laughed, trying to imagine what it would be like to have a child involved in her dating life. Her last relationship had been carefully compartmentalized away from her work, scheduled into her calendar like any other appointment. "Can I ask you something?" Kieran said, his tone more serious. "Why did you ask me out? You could probably date anyone you wanted." Natalie considered the question. "You were kind when I needed help with no expectation of anything in return, and you talk about your daughter and your work with such genuine feeling." She paused. "That's rare in my experience." As they finished their ice cream, Kieran walked her to her car. There was a moment of hesitation before he leaned in and kissed her cheek. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "I'd like that too." Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm of dating that worked around both their schedules. Natalie was careful to block off time for their dates, something she'd never prioritized before. They went hiking, visited a local art gallery, and spent an evening cooking dinner together at his modest but charming home. Kieran's house reflected him perfectly warm, unpretentious, and filled with beautiful furniture he had crafted himself. The kitchen table, he told her, was the first piece he'd made after Lily was born. "I wanted something that would last her lifetime," he explained, running his hand over the smooth oak surface. "Something she could take with her when she has her own family someday." Natalie was touched by the thought. Her own apartment, while expensively decorated, suddenly seemed sterile and impersonal by comparison. On their fifth date, Natalie finally met Lily properly. They went to the zoo, and Natalie was charmed by the little girl's curiosity and energy. Lily bombarded her with questions about everything from her favorite animal to whether she knew how to braid hair. "Dad's terrible at braids," Lily confided as they watched the elephants. "He tries, but they always fall out." "Maybe I could show him sometime," Natalie offered, catching Kieran's grateful smile over his daughter's head. As they left the zoo, Lily tugged on Natalie's hand. "Do you want to come over for pizza night? We make them ourselves. Dad lets me put extra cheese on mine." Natalie looked to Kieran, who shrugged with a smile. "Pizza night is sacred in our house. I'd be honored if you'd join us." That evening, standing in Kieran's kitchen with flour on her dress and Lily teaching her how to toss pizza dough, Natalie felt a happiness she hadn't experienced in years. The simple joy of making dinner with them, laughing as Lily told stories about school, made the stress of her workweek fade away. After Lily went to bed, Kieran and Natalie sat on his back porch, sharing a bottle of wine. "Thank you for today," he said, his voice quiet in the darkness. "Lily hasn't stopped talking about you since the concert. I was worried she'd be too much." "She's wonderful," Natalie said sincerely. "You've done an amazing job with her. Some days I feel like I'm just making it up as I go." He took a sip of wine. "Business has been slow lately. I'm worried about making next month's mortgage payment." The casual admission caught Natalie off guard. In her world, financial struggles weren't discussed so openly. "Is there anything I can do to help?" she asked carefully. Kieran's expression shifted immediately. "No, absolutely not. I didn't tell you that to ask for money. I was just sharing." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not used to talking about these things, but with you it feels natural." Natalie nodded, understanding. "I appreciate your honesty." He studied her for a moment. "You know, you've never invited me to your place." The comment wasn't accusatory, but Natalie felt a twinge of guilt. She had been keeping parts of her life separate, afraid of how he might react to her wealth and status. "I'd like to fix that," she said. "How about dinner at my place next weekend?" The following Saturday, Natalie spent the morning nervously preparing for Kieran and Lily's visit. She rarely cooked, but she wanted to make the effort. Her penthouse apartment, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, suddenly seemed too ostentatious. When the doorman called to announce her guests, Natalie took a deep breath. The moment Kieran stepped off the elevator, his eyes widened as he took in the expansive space. "Wow," Lily exclaimed, running to the windows. "You can see the whole city from here." Kieran stood in the entryway, a bouquet of flowers in hand, looking slightly overwhelmed. "You didn't mention you lived in the penthouse of the city's most exclusive building," he said quietly. Natalie accepted the flowers, feeling uncertain. "Does it bother you?" He seemed to consider the question. "It's surprising," he admitted. "But no, it doesn't bother me. It's just a different world than mine." Lily had no such reservations, already exploring the apartment with enthusiasm. "Do you have a swimming pool? My friend Jessica's building has a pool." "There is one on the roof," Natalie said, relieved by the child's easy acceptance. "Maybe we can check it out after dinner." As they ate the pasta Natalie had prepared, with some help from a cooking video, the initial awkwardness faded. Lily dominated the conversation with stories about school and her upcoming dance recital, while Kieran gradually relaxed. After dinner, while Lily was occupied with a movie in the living room, Kieran helped Natalie clear the dishes. "So, tech job, huh?" he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. Natalie winced. "I may have undersold it a bit, just a bit." He rinsed a plate before asking, "What exactly do you do, Natalie?" She took a breath. "I'm the CEO of Vanguard Innovations. We develop healthcare technology systems." Kieran whistled softly. "I've read about your company. You're revolutionizing patient data management, right?" Natalie stared at him, surprised. "You know about Vanguard?" "I read the business section," he said with a shrug. "Plus, my sister works in hospital administration. She raves about your systems." He paused. "Why didn't you tell me?" "People treat me differently when they know," she admitted. "Suddenly, I'm not Natalie anymore. I'm a net worth or a connection they want to leverage." Kieran dried his hands and turned to face her. "I liked you when I thought you were just another overworked professional. Finding out you're actually a tech mogul doesn't change that." Relief washed over her. "You're not intimidated." "Oh, I'm definitely intimidated," he said with a laugh. "But not because of your job or this apartment. It's because I haven't felt this way about someone in a very long time, and it scares the hell out of me." Natalie stepped closer to him. "Me too." Their kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with a hunger that surprised them both. Kieran pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against hers. "Lily," he whispered. "Right," Natalie said, reluctantly stepping away. Rain check. The weeks that followed brought them closer, their worlds gradually intertwining. Natalie found herself scheduling meetings around Lily's school events, while Kieran began taking on more ambitious projects with her encouragement. One evening, while helping Lily with her homework at Kieran's kitchen table, Natalie's phone rang. It was her CFO, calling about a potential crisis with a major client. "I'm sorry," she said to Kieran. "I need to take this." For 20 minutes, she paced his living room, discussing contingency plans and damage control. When she hung up, she found Kieran watching her with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You're really good at what you do," he said. "Years of practice," she replied, sitting beside him on the couch. "I'm sorry about that. Don't apologize. I understand having responsibilities." He hesitated. "But I worry about you sometimes. You work too hard," says the man who stayed up 3 nights to finish a commission. "Touché," he smiled, but his eyes remained serious. "We're quite the pair, aren't we? The struggling carpenter and the CEO." The description made Natalie uncomfortable. "You're not struggling. You're building something meaningful, just like I am. But on a slightly different scale," he pointed out. "Your company is worth millions." "Does that bother you?" she asked, the question that had been hovering between them for weeks. "Sometimes," he admitted honestly. "Not because of the money itself, but because I wonder what I can offer someone like you." Natalie took his hand. "You offer me something I can't buy or build a connection that feels real. Do you know how rare that is in my life?" Later that night, after Lily was asleep, They made love for the first time. Afterward, lying in his bed with moonlight streaming through the window, Natalie felt a sense of peace that had eluded her for years. "Stay," Kieran murmured, his arm around her waist. "I have an early meeting," she said reluctantly. "I know, but stay anyway," she did, waking before dawn to shower and dress. As she prepared to leave, Kieran watched her from the bed. "This is real, isn't it?" he asked, his voice husky with sleep. Natalie smiled, understanding the question beneath his words. "Yes," she said, "it's real." Over the next few months, their relationship deepened. Natalie found herself leaving work earlier, delegating more to her capable team. Kieran's business began to thrive after a design magazine featured his work, bringing in new clients and opportunities. One weekend, they took Lily camping, something Natalie had never done before. As they sat around the campfire, Lily snuggled between them, Kieran sharing stories of constellations above. Natalie realized she had found a family in them. The revelation both thrilled and terrified her. Her career had always been her priority, her identity. Now, she was discovering parts of herself she had neglected for years: the joy of simple pleasures, the fulfillment of connection. On the drive home from their camping trip, Lily fell asleep in the back seat, and Kieran reached over to take Natalie's hand. "Move in with us," he said quietly. Natalie glanced at him in surprise. "What? I know it's soon," he continued. "And I know your place makes mine look like a shoebox, but I love you, Natalie. I think we could build something beautiful together." The word love hung in the air between them. He hadn't said it before, and neither had she, though she had felt it growing for weeks. "What about Lily?" Natalie asked, her heart racing. "She adores you. She already asks when you're coming over next before you've even left." He squeezed her hand. "Think about it, no pressure." That night, alone in her penthouse, Natalie considered his offer. The space that had once represented her success now felt empty compared to the warmth of Kieran's modest home. She thought about waking up beside him every morning, helping Lily get ready for school, coming home to them in the evenings. The next day, during a board meeting, Natalie found herself distracted, sketching a small house on her notepad while the CFO presented quarterly figures. When the meeting ended, her chairman Robert stopped her. "Everything all right, Natalie? You seemed miles away." "I'm fine," she assured him, "just thinking about some personal changes." Robert, who had been her mentor for years, studied her face. "The carpenter." Natalie blinked in surprise. "How did you? You've been leaving the office before midnight, smiling at your phone, and last week you mentioned going camping." He chuckled. "I've known you for 8 years, Natalie. This is the first time I've seen you prioritize your personal life. Is that a problem?" She asked, suddenly defensive. "Quite the opposite. It's about time." He patted her shoulder. "The company won't fall apart if the CEO has a life outside these walls. In fact, I think it might make you an even better leader." His words stayed with her as she drove to Kieran's house that evening. When she arrived, Lily ran to greet her, showing off a loose tooth. Kieran followed, kissing her hello before returning to the stir-fry he was making. After dinner, while Lily worked on a school project, Natalie helped Kieran with the dishes. "I've been thinking about your offer," she said. He glanced at her, trying to read her expression. "And, my lease is up in 2 months," she continued, "but this place is small for 3 people." Kieran's hands stilled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should look for something new together. Not as big as my place, not as small as yours, something that could be ours." His face broke into a wide smile. "Are you sure?" "I love you," she said, the words coming easily now. "And I love Lily. I want to build a life with you both." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "I never expected this when I caught you at that concert." "Neither did I," Natalie admitted, "but I'm so glad you were there." 6 months later, they moved into a charming house with a large yard and a workshop for Kieran. Natalie converted one room into a home office, but found herself using it less than she expected. Lily thrived, delighting in having Natalie help with homework and attend her school events. One evening, as they sat on their new porch swing, watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard, Kieran took Natalie's hand. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small wooden box, intricately carved with a pattern of intertwined branches. Inside was a ring simple but elegant, with a diamond nestled between 2 sapphires. I made the box, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The ring was my grandmother's. Natalie felt tears welling in her eyes as he continued. When you nearly fainted at that concert, I had no idea I was catching the woman I'd spend my life with. I didn't know you were a brilliant CEO, and I certainly didn't know I'd fall so completely in love with you. He took a breath. Natalie Voss, will you marry me? Before she could answer, Lily ran up to them, her eyes wide with excitement. Did you ask her? Is she going to be my mom now? Kieran laughed. I'm still waiting for her answer, sweetheart. Natalie looked between them, this man who had shown her what it meant to build a life with purpose and love, and this child who had opened her heart in ways she never expected. Yes, she said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. Yes to both questions. As Kieran slipped the ring onto her finger and Lily threw her arms around them both, Natalie thought about the night they met, how close she had come to missing this future because of exhaustion and a skipped meal. Life's most important moments often came disguised as ordinary coincidences, she realized. A woman nearly fainting at a concert, a struggling dad with a granola bar in his pocket. Sometimes, the most extraordinary love stories began in the most unexpected ways.